celebrating 17 years of possibility. Pilot Flying J and Hallerin Hilton Hill present Anything is Possible. Today's guest, Scott West, Part 2.
Welcome to Anything is Possible. Great stories about great people whose lives prove possibility. And the fact that Scott West is at this table is a confirmation of
Shocking.
possibility. You're supposed to be locked up for 25 years. Yeah. Thank you for being here for Part 2 of this interview.
Thanks for having me.
Kevin Bacon should play you in the movie adaptation of your story.
Yeah, but he's too old.
See?
He's just too old to play me. I'm thinking Tom Hardy.
Okay. I'll take a Tom
Hardy. He's
Hardy.
number one actor in the world now, right. So we'll go with him.
I'll take him. Scott, thanks for sharing your story. So when we left off, you're headed to jail. You're in Blount County Jail.
Mm-hmm. It sucks.
It sucks. And you figured out a way to get literature because you want to read.
Right.
You have always been curious. You're a writer. You're a creator, author. How'd you figure out how to get van loads of material into the jail?
Well, I realized that the guy that's doing the books to the different cells isn't actually an inmate. You know, he's. So I said, I can get you as many books as you want, and if you just get some of them into here, I'm totally cool with that. So he said, yeah. So I had Bernadette take him van loads of books, and then he would bring selections into the jail so that we'd have better reading.
Were you writing while you were in jail?
I wrote. Here's the thing: when a lot of people, if you ask them the first day they're doing their time, if you said you can teleport to the last day and be free, but you'll lose those years, I would have told you no way. I'm not going to lose one moment of my life, and I'm going to adapt and survive. Right. So I knew from the moment I was facing the time that I would not lose it, that I would use every moment of it. I would better myself. I'd be more healthy than I'd ever been. I'd be smarter than I'd ever been, and I would create a lot of literature and poetry. I wrote a book of poetry, 3 books of literature, nonfiction, and an album of music while I was in prison. So I stayed
album
very
of
busy.
Music?
I was dreading my release date. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get done with all this before they release me. So I was like that.
You play an instrument?
I don't play like you do. I don't play well, but yeah, I was in a punk rock band called Boy Genius. Before Jimmy Neutron, before there was a cartoon, before this new girl band called Boy Genius. We were called Boy Genius back in the 90s. Got signed on a division of Warner Brothers called Tommy Boy Records.
Yeah.
I was on there with Coolio and Naughty by Nature, but we were doing punk rock. So yeah, I played bass guitar.
So once again, what I'm noticing about you is you're creative, and whatever somebody gives you, you're going to create something out of it. Mm-hmm. So Dungeons and Dragons, I'm going to use this to create worlds and to really practice using my imagination, right? So now a person that is practiced in using their imagination can look at a dilapidated building and imagine a new world. Nobody will rent from us, so I can imagine businesses to go in there. You put me in jail, that imagination fires up, and I got time to write books and to write music. And so I guess as you work the muscle of creativity, right?
Yep.
And faith, really, because you got to believe that something's possible, you emerge from jail a better man?
Yeah. Yeah, when I got out of jail, I had written, I wore my family out with business plans. I would give them 80-page business plans on every business. And, of course, when I got out, those business plans were still waiting for me. So when I got out, I hit the ground running. My sister had 1 floor Preservation Pub, which I'm so thankful to have my family, because I can tell you, as a ex-convict, there's going to be no help from government or big business. So I could not have owned any of this stuff. So I come back in working for my sister at Preservation Pub with Bernadette. We take it from 1 floor to 2 floors to 3 floors. Then Bernadette and I acquire 32 Market Square. This is still, buildings are only 5 times as expensive at this point because of the value we created. Back in 2000, so I get out 2010-ish, and then we work for a few years. Then we create Scruffy City Hall, 3 levels, and then after we create Scruffy City Hall with the 1st floor, 2nd floor, and roof, then everything starts coming together. It's been 10 years since we were indicted. Now I can actually own a business again, which was illegal for me to own a bar. So after 10 years, I can buy back Preservation Pub Corporation for my sister. And then Bernadette and I did that, and we bought the building. Then we acquired 32 Market Square, which is Scruffy City Hall. And then we acquired 26 Market Square, which we're converting into 4 floors of entertainments called Bernadette's Crystal Bar Rooms, which is 30,000 pounds of crystals and electric forests on 4 levels. That'll be open over the next 2 months. We'll be opening all that. And we bought, this is full circle. They seized 28 from us. They seized 36 from us. And 10 years later, I reacquired 36 Market Square, the 4-story on the north end of Market Square, and opened Tommy Trent's Sports Saloon, named after Bernadette's father. So coming out of prison, I would say that, yeah, it hit the ground running, but I couldn't have done it, obviously, on my own. Knoxville embraced us. You know, I got out. Obviously, I've never heard of this story where you go down like we did. I mean, it was a huge story in Knoxville in 2006 when I went down for that.
I remember.
We were considered the cheerleaders of downtown revitalization. We were the tip of the spear of that. You know, I was on the Mayor Haslam's advisory board. I'd been on Mayor Ash's advisory board before Haslam. So we'd been involved in this for a long, long time. But when I got out, we couldn't have done anything if the citizens of Knoxville didn't believe we were good people and still wanted us to be there. We couldn't have done anything. And one thing I can say is after that happened, nobody came forward saying how I screwed them over in a business deal. You know, nobody that knew me said what a terrible person I was and how I did them wrong. The people that were saying terrible things about me didn't know me, and they weren't based off of actual interactions with me. So I felt pretty good coming back and rebuilding, which we've done, more than done. We've exceeded where we were when we went in.
Scott West is my guest. You're watching Anything is Possible.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. Coming up.
If they'd given me a life sentence, I would have created new worlds. I would have lived in those worlds, and I would have been free even in prison.
I'm always inspired when I do this show every year because I learn so much. One of the things I learned just listening to you during these 2 episodes is about keeping your dreams and your creativity active. That space cannot confine the mind unless you allow it to.
Yeah, if they'd given me a life sentence, which I didn't want, and I don't want to ever go back and have no intention of ever going back on another adventure sabbatical. But you'd mentioned something earlier which I had never thought about, which is if they'd given me a life sentence, I would have created new worlds. I would have lived in those worlds, and I would have been free even in prison. They could not have, the only way they could have taken it from me is a lobotomy. That's it. Otherwise, I was always going to be free because of my mind.
So this bleak stuff forced you into a new mind and thus a new mindset. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to create my world. You're not going to define me by my size, by my whatever. I'm going to define how I experience life. And that to me that's pretty incredible. What happened to your brother?
Well, my brother was in longer than I was because he was the kingpin. You know, that was he was the mastermind of the. I remember one of the things that Judge Phillips said at his trial, which nowadays I find particularly interesting. He said, "Mr. West, you have quite a business mind and you could have been very successful if you'd chosen a different path. Donald Trump would have hired you." He said that. The judge said that to my brother back in 2013. I mean, because he was in jail for 3 years. He looked like a fish belly when he got to the prison I was in. He looked like he literally was as white as a fish belly because he had no sunlight for 3 years. So, I mean, it was very sad to see him after all that time. But after he did his time, I got to see him for a year there when we crossed directions in prison. But I got out. I told him, of course, when you get out, you're going to rejoin me. And he's quite brilliant, actually. He's, highest IQ of anybody in his class, highest ACT in anybody's class, straight F student. Yes, that's right. He had a lower grade point average than John Belushi in Animal House.
Wow.
And that's a fact. But when he got out, he rejoined me. So he's with me, and I have big plans, he and I do. So.
Was your father disappointed?
No, my parents are so loving and so supportive. It's really unbelievable. how supportive they are. It felt like their entire politics shifted so that they would be 110% behind their kids.
Really?
Yeah, they were way more angry about it and more assertive about laws changing than I ever was once that happened to us. My parents are absolutely 110% behind us.
Do you have children?
I do not. I only have a 16-year-old blind, deaf, constipated, fat old cat who I have to get up every hour and a half at night and feed. But no kids.
We have a blind dog that we're having an adventure. Cat. Yeah. So let me ask you this. You wrote books. You write books.
Mm-hmm. I see that as a chapter in my life. The Adventure Sabbatical, that's a chapter. My life is a book. That's how I see it. It's a book. So everything to me, I see exactly in those terms that you just said.
What are you writing about? Well,
the last thing I did last year, I decided to rewrite. I thought it was going to be a brochure. Remember, I did this thing called Walking Tour of the Old City called Lost Tales of the Old City, which told about Kid Curry shooting up Patrick Sullivan's saloon and Buffalo Bill and all these interesting Cal Johnson, the millionaire who came from slavery and then became a millionaire, stuff like that. Those are the kind of stories that I put in that brochure. Well, last year I decided I would do it again. I'm going to do a walking tour of downtown Knoxville. Next thing I know, it's 4 books long. So I have four 120-page books. I call the Lost Tales of Scruffy City. So instead of Lost Tales of the Old City, now it's Lost Tales of Scruffy City. And it's all the interesting history, much of which is, people that broke the rules but got things done, which I find fascinating. I think everybody does. But I put out 4 books last year.
So let me ask you this. Why do you believe so much in this city, and in particular, you're part of this city? You have an almost evangelistic faith in downtown Market Square. What is that?
I think I do see myself as a downtown evangelist, and I don't mean to express it in any kind of, disrespectful way, but I see myself as a downtown evangelist, as creative financier of Market Square and downtown evangelist. That's what I am. So I would say it's because Paris, if I were in Paris or London or New York City or even San Francisco or Las Vegas or wherever, I would have a very minimal impact on doing things. But in Knoxville, I could have a major impact on things in a good way. I mean, I know some people may debate that, but our intention has always been to elevate Knoxville, make it the premier city of the Southeast, to make it the best place a person could travel or live. And to do that, I see it as a chicken and egg thing. So like a lot of people, you'll hear developers say, retail follows residential. You ever heard that? Retail follows residential. I say horse pucky. Retail does not follow residential. First, cool bars and cafes and galleries and antique stores and so forth open in cool buildings with history. Then people visit those neighborhoods, and those neighborhoods become desirable places. Then people start living around those cool neighborhoods. Then at some point there are enough people enjoying these cool accoutrements of this town that they say, where's the shoe store? Where's the Staples? Where's the grocery store? Then retail follows residential. But first comes the chicken, the retail, then comes the egg, the people, then comes more chickens, which is more retail.
So we're going to take a break, and I would like for you to consider this. Number one, what makes a cool bar cool? And then I want to close on this. You said you've written a Scruffy City tour series. I would love for you to tell me the elements of a possibility tour. If we're going on a tour of possibility, what are the things you got to have in that book in order to have a great life? Scott West is my guest. This is Anything is Possible.
Coming up.
The thing about Bernadette is she is mild-mannered, but she's way stronger than me. She stood in front of her judge. What I did is I bawled and cried and said, I'm sorry. And Bernadette said, I'm proud of what I did. That's Bernadette.
Scott, it's been a delight to have you on this broadcast.
Thank you so much.
I like your vision. I like your creative mind. I like your enthusiasm for life and possibility. What makes a cool bar cool?
Well, Do you remember the quote from Keith Richards? They asked Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones, said, "What makes a person cool?" And Keith Richards said, "Cool just is, or you ain't." So I think a cool bar is because you're not faking it. It's
Right.
real. Preservation Pub is a very real bar, very warm, very friendly. And because of that, it has lots of regulars. All the bands want to play there. So you have all this energy from these bands that are up and coming. The bands that will one day play on the stages of Bonnaroo for AC Entertainment first played the stages of Preservation Pub. And I'm talking people like Cage the Elephant, Chris Stapleton, Moon Taxi. All these guys played Preservation Pub before they made it big. So I think that we create an incubator for live music, which if you've ever been in a band, then you know that if you don't practice, you have no band. And you don't tend to practice unless you have a show. There's got to be some thing, people are procrastinators. So it's like there's got to be something coming up. We're going to record, we're going to do a show, then you practice. So I think a cool bar comes from the fact that it is what it is. It's not trying to be some other bar. Everything we create is intended to be unique in the whole world. When we open Bernadette's Crystal Bar Rooms, it will be the coolest bar on planet Earth. And I've been to the bars in Vegas and in London and in Paris and in San Francisco. And I'm telling you, what we're building will be the coolest bar on the planet. There may be one made in some Roman ruin somewhere that I don't know about that's cool, but this is cooler than anything else because it's real. It's not a fake crystal bar room. I've got 30,000 pounds of crystals, which are art, that have been sculpted by millions of years of heat and pressure into art. I'm not faking them. They're real. Those are going to be in there, lit up, looking amazing. So that's what I would say makes a cool bar, is you create something that's not anywhere else. So if you go in our place, you say, I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm not in anywhere USA. I'm somewhere specific. That's what's special about a locally owned business, and that's what's really special about our bars, because you know where you are. You're not in an Applebee's. You're in Preservation Pub.
What are your rules? Take me on a quick tour of making a comeback from a setback.
Well, obviously, you've got to believe in yourself. So that comes from, I guess, that's maybe the infrastructure or the skeleton. It's stick-to-itiveness. And like Michael Jordan was cut from the high school basketball team, becomes the greatest basketball player in the history of the sport because he was cut from that high school team. And so that gave him drive. We talked about getting bullied in high school. That drive allowed him to become the best he could be because he had a setback. If he didn't have the setback, he may not have been as good as he was. So I would say that the setback made me way stronger, made me way smarter, made me have more drive, more stick-to-itiveness, more persistence, which is talent, intelligence, good looks. Yes, I have all those. No, I'm kidding. All those things are secondary. All that matters is that do you stick to it? Everybody knows that. Like, I think it was Bill Gates that said, who needs genius when you have obsession? A person that obsesses about a goal will achieve it. If you obsess about a thing, you will get there. They talk about the 10,000 hour rule, that a person becomes great when they do something 10,000 hours. In other words, child prodigy is a word. What really happened is that person became obsessed at an early age. Beethoven was obsessed with music, right, at an early age. Or, maybe a Michael Jordan is obsessed with basketball at an early age, and that's how you become the greatest. You can't become the greatest from talent or smarts or skill or athleticism or anything. None of those things matter compared to sticking to it and just keeping at it, work. Nothing compares.
Let's close on Bernadette.
Yeah.
Talk about what she means to you.
Well, I am the hot air beneath her wings. Speaking of which, she's hot. Right now, she's raising a baby bird. There's a baby bird at the construction site that didn't have a mom, so she's right now feeding that baby bird, which I call LB, the little bird. But the thing about Bernadette is she is mild-mannered, but she's way stronger than me. The fact that, she stood in front of her judge, what I did is I bawled and cried and said, I'm sorry, and Bernadette said, I'm proud of what I did. That's Bernadette. You're not supposed to do that in front of a judge. You know that when you're pleading guilty, you're supposed to say, I'm sorry, I'm a terrible person, have mercy on me. Bernadette said, I'm proud of what I've done, and I'll be back. That's what she said to the judge. And, of course, he didn't give her any more time for that. I was worried to death I'd get more time if I said something to defend myself, so I didn't. But she's the executioner. So I envision things. Bernadette says, no. The first 99 ideas, no. Like, for instance, we built a magic beer tree on top of the preservation pub, right? So we just finished it. We spent 3 months with forks sculpting the cement into this bark of this tree, which is really cool. The interior is a walk-in cooler. But anyway, so we built this magic beer tree, and we finish it. The day we finish it, we're covered in cement. We're sitting there with these cement-covered forks, and Bernadette says, I'm done. Don't ever talk to me about sculpting another tree. That's it. I'm done with this. And I said, yeah, no, definitely. We're not going to sculpt another tree. That was ridiculous. And I said, but what if it was a crystal tree? And she said, I'm not doing another tree. And I said, what if it was a crystal waterfall? And she said, waterfall, that's cool. Let's do that. So basically my job is to give her an idea that she can get inspired by, and then she goes to it. Like right now she's busy building 30,000 pounds of crystals into the most amazing bar on the planet while I sit here and describe it to you. But she'll actually make it happen. That's what Bernadette is. And we'll always be together. She's as good a person as I could ever hope to be with. She's beautiful and strong and smart, and I'll always be with her, as long as she'll have me.
Scott West, a fascinating journey and really a story of possibility. You are proof that anything is possible, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, sir. I really do appreciate it.